Well, I've taken the Thermasheet off the back wall and I'm pretty well good to mosaic. Now I have put a line about 3mm up, and that's because I don't want to go past that line. So once I start mosaicing, I want to make sure that the tessera ends at that line. And the reason being is, when this is up on the wall, I want to make sure there's enough room there to put a bead of sealant along there to make it waterproof, because I don't want any water to come from the sink to go under the mosaic and of course go down the back wall. So having that bead of sealant there will make sure this stays nice and dry and waterproof. Now I've chosen my palette of colours, and I think this is what I'm going to be going with, and I'm going to be using mostly tile. Now there's some really beautiful colours here, and these are the old Johnson tiles made in England, so they're going to be a lot easier to cut. Now not all of these are Johnson tiles. I have some white ones here that I'm not sure what brand they are, but they'll come in quite handy, and these red ones here are the new Johnson tiles, and they're going to be a lot more difficult to actually shape and cut. But we'll get around that, that's not an issue. Now I'm also looking at using some mirror as well, and I've got here a container of mirror rounds, which I really like using these, and I may even cut them in half because A, it'll add interest, and B, is that they'll go further. But we'll see how that works out within the design. I also have here some mirror strips that I did some time ago. They're going to come in quite handy. Whether I use those, I'm not sure. And same with these squares, which I also made these quite some time ago. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to be using those, but they're all ready to go if I decide to. So I like using mirror tiles in my mosaics. I think they look really good. And over here I have some more tiles here, which are Johnson tiles. And most of these are again made in England. Really nice tiles, easy to cut. And of course then you have some of the red ones, which are the newer type, which can be quite difficult to cut and shape. And I've got some different types here. Whether I use some of these, I'm not quite sure, but they're there if I need them, and the colour range is quite good. So anyway, I'm going to start mosaicing. Well, I'm pretty well good to go. I'm going to start in this left-hand corner here, and I think I'm going to start off with a purple tile, which is what I have here. So I'm just going to pop that over the back there. I'm going to use a carpet tile. This is what I use to score my stained glass and my tiles on. I just use the back of a carpet tile. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's got a bit of cushion to it. So if I need to press anywhere, it just cushions it, you know, firmly, and it just allows you to break things a little bit easier. Now I'm going to use a ruler. Now I don't normally use a ruler when I'm doing mosaics, but in this particular case I am, because I'm going to want some straight edges. So I'm just going to draw a triangular line across there, put this aside, and I'm going to now get my scorer, and this is a Toyo pencil grip scorer, and I'm going to just run that along the score line, or along the mark I should say, and then I'm going to get my scorer breakers, and you can use the score part of the scorer breakers as well if you want to do that, but I just find this is actually better and works better for me, but each to their own. And I'm just going to put this in there and break it. So I'll put that aside, bring this up here, and I'm thinking about something like that. I think that'll look really good. So I've got my Thinset here. Now for those people in Australia, we don't call this Thinset, we call it a cement-based adhesive. So remember that, but for the US, it's called Thinset. Now, I've got Thinset in this baggie, and I find this is the most easiest way and gives you the utmost control when using Thinset or a cement-based adhesive. And this is a black Thinset. Now, I've made this Thinset out of grout. Okay, so I've used a grout, a black grout, and I've put a latex additive. So this is black grout with a latex additive in it. So instead of using water, I've used a latex additive, and this turns this into Thinset, an adhesive. But if I was to use water and just the grout, then it's just grout. And you don't want to do that because you won't adhere things down because it's not an adhesive. But adding the latex additive instead of water turns this into an adhesive. Now, of course, I'll put all the links in the bottom of the YouTube channel if you want to go and have a look and see what I've used. And I find the baggy system, as I said, really gives you great control. So I'm going to start here. I can go right to the edge here and at the top here, making sure that when I'm going along the top here, that it actually stays flush with the top, because I'm looking at putting a row of tiles there. Now, if you want to make sure, you can get a ruler like this and just put it at the back there, just to make sure that it's going to be level with the actual, or it's going to be right to the edge of the actual Thermasheet. But you just got to make sure you don't tilt the ruler this way or this way, because you'll go over it. It's got to be vertical, but I pretty well gauge it with my finger anyway. It's probably a bit better to come in a little bit than over. So all I'm going to do now and I'm using quite a bit here. And I'm going to turn that over and we're going to wobble it. It doesn't matter if it oozes out the side. If it does ooze out the side, you don't have to wipe it up straight away, but you will need to wipe it up within the next couple of hours or so. And if you wipe it up, if you leave it for a little while, for instance, if there's a bit oozed out the side, which there really isn't, but if you leave it oozing out the side and you go to wipe it up now, it'll just smudge. Whereas if you wipe it up later, you can just run a fork or a knife across there and it'll just drop off. So I find that works really well for me. So there you go, that's about it. And I'm thinking I've already got some of these, so I might put a red tile in there like that. So I'll do the same thing. Making sure that they're pretty well flush with each other on top. Now I like to have my grout lines fairly close together. I know some people prefer them 3mm or 5mm, but I really like my grout lines pretty close together. Now, if I wasn't going to be continuing with this, and let's say I've done a bit and I'm finishing for the day, don't leave your thin set oozing out like that. Remember to wipe it up, because this will set like rock and it'll be very, very difficult to get that off. So always, before you leave, double check your mosaic and clean it as you either as you go or when you have completely finished. But don't forget, because it's very easy to get sidetracked with the phone or someone at the front door or something like that. So I think that looks really good. Now, I think what I'll do now is, I've got some straight bits here, so I might just add that piece in there like that. And I need to get myself a texture because there's not one here. All right, so we're going to turn that around there. That'll give a nice edge, nice finish. And all I'm going to do is just draw an angle on that. Score it, break it, double check, always no, because I didn't allow for that bit down there, so I'm going to have to recut that. It's not a major issue. I'm going to cut a bit off the bottom. Nope, I'm not happy with that. So we discard that and I'll get another one. If you're not happy with something, get rid of it. Don't use it, because you will regret it later. That's better. That's much better. And you can butter it on the actual tessera, or you can put the actual Thinset down on the actual Thermasheet, whichever way you want to do it is fine. Just put a bit more under that. And the other reason why I use the grout with the additive is because I can make the adhesive the same colour as what I'm going to be grouting in. For instance, this piece is going to be grouted in black. So by using this combination of grout and also a latex additive in your grout, if any of the black adhesive squishes up between the grout lines, it's not going to be an issue because I'm going to be grouting in black anyway. So I find that works really well. Whereas if I had have used white or grey, which is what Thinset normally comes in, and it squeezes up in between the grout lines, then I'm going to have to remove that from the grout lines if it squeezes up too high, because there won't be enough room in there to grout in the colour that I want. So I find this works really well. And I've been using it for around about 10 years and I find I haven't had any issues doing that. Okay, so that's all really good. Just make sure that's in there. Now, I think because I've already got some here, I think what I might do is add this one in here. So again, I'm going to run a mark along there. Along there. Just keep an eye on that you don't move any of the tessera over to a side that you don't want it to. You don't want to bump it. Now I think I'll put those in there. I think I'll do that blue. Ooh, that will fit perfectly if I put that in there. And when you're pushing down into the Thinset, you're not pushing it right to the board. You're sitting it in a bed of Thinset. You can give it a bit of a wobble and you can push down, but don't push it right down to the board. It needs to sit into a bed of Thinset. All right, now I'm going to put a piece of blue. No. I'm going to have to get another piece of blue. Back in a tick. All right, I'm going to cut this down and I'm probably going to cut it into about 15 millimeters wide. I might actually put some dark blue in here while I'm going. I've got this. These are nice lengths. Yes, I think I'll use this. So I'm going to now just put a mark here. It's a bit dusty. I've had the, oh, that's a bit marked too. I hope that comes off. Yeah, it's coming off. Funny, sometimes I it's funny, sometimes I back butter the piece and other times I'll just put it straight on the board. Just depends what I'm doing. Now I've put a mark there and there so as I know what angle to cut the tile at, because I can't see it. So I now know that if I want that angle, I'll just line something up there. And theoretically this should work. We're about to find out. Yep, it's good. All I have to do is do this area here. There you go, close enough. And I'm really just doing my own thing, like I have no idea how this design is going to go. I've got some of these tiles here. I'm not really quite sure if I really want to use these, but these are going to be a bit small, I think. I might keep those out because I might use them somewhere. I think I found the ones I want. Yep. See this area here where there's a bit of thinset there? I'll now be able to scrape that and it won't smudge. See how it comes up? That's the time to do it. Kind of like a couple of hours later, and that allows you to clean up. Whereas if I do any of this area here, it smudges, which is not a big issue, but it just makes cleaning up the thinset easier if you do it. After a little while. There you go. All right. So I'm going to continue on and do a little bit more to let this run out, and then we'll come back and have a look.